there's a great power battle that you probably don't know about. It's about space, specifically the moon. Just a few days ago, the Trump administration released this executive order ensuring American space superiority. And in it, it states that Americans need to return to the moon by 2028 and establish a permanent lunar outpost by 2030. This is what a permanent lunar outpost might look like. And you might be thinking, Davis, why would I care about the moon? Well, I'm going to tell you because a lot of things are going to start making sense. And a person who's at the center of a lot of this is this guy, Jared Isaacman. He's actually a high school dropout come multi-billionaire founder of multiple companies. He is now the head of NASA. And this is big, big business. It's going to have a big impact on all of our lives and all of our jobs here pretty soon. $50 billion of additional investment going into space soon. Even deploying nuclear reactors on the moon and in orbit by 2030. That's right, nuclear reactors on the moon and orbiting the Earth. And I told you this is a great power battle, and it is, because the Chinese and the Russians have this group they're calling the International Lunar Research Station, and this is going to come back in a big way. Because basically, the International Lunar Research Station, basically China and Russia and a few of their buddies, are going to start construction on the moon, they say, by 2028. And the whole deal here is that there's literally a race to get to the lunar South Pole, because whoever gets there first and constructs a permanent settlement, they're basically going to set the rules for space. That's because the lunar South Pole has areas of constant solar illumination, meaning you have power, and water ice, meaning you can have water. That's this area right here in the moon. And whatever nation establishes infrastructure there first is going to dictate the rules for space. Which is why you see in Trump's order, it says American space superiority. Because we're talking about having space-based missile defenses. Something like this. And I told you this is a battle because the United States has led this thing called the Artemis Accords. These are our rules and other democracies that have set out the rules that we think should be followed in space. And China and Russia did not join. They are literally doing their own thing through this International Lunar Research Station. And it's all about who can get here first, and there's a lot to that. So here are all the nations in the Artemis Accords. There are some big already kind of in-space nations like the UK, like Japan. And the other team is China, Russia, Egypt, Nicaragua, Serbia, Pakistan. And it looks like space is big business, asteroid mining and a lot of other stuff. So like there will be trade routes between the moon and space. And it sounds like whichever team gets here first gets to determine those trade routes. And you're going to see here, we're talking like trillions of dollars. And this is not a new thing. The National Cislunar Science Technology Strategy has been a working group for a while now. They call this economy the cislunar economy. I don't know where that word comes from. And honestly, sometimes I feel like I've been kept out of the loop on this stuff. Like Johns Hopkins University has been doing this for a while, but nobody really talks about this. Even though it literally looks like it's a battle between basically democracies and the other team for literal space superiority with like space missiles. And it looks like one of the big holdups for us on the Artemis Accords side is this Orion heat shield. It's part of this Orion spacecraft, which is supposed to be built by Lockheed Martin, which is kind of an old school defense supplier in America. Earlier, NASA awarded Lockheed Martin this contract, and Jared's about to come back into play, this dude who's now head of NASA and, you know, kind of controversial, as you'll see, because he's super buddies with Elon. Because he has close ties to SpaceX, so the Senate was hesitant to confirm him as the NASA administrator. But he comes from the private sector. He's a super successful entrepreneur, so he doesn't like these long timelines and high costs that happen when you give these contracts out to old school providers, and now they're not able to deliver, cost overruns. And I think you're about to see why Elon is such a big deal to like literal America. And that's because this whole Starbase thing you've probably heard of in Texas, a lot of it is about in-space refueling. Apparently, we haven't quite figured this out yet. And honestly, what's necessary to do this is crazy. You need all these launches. You need to time stuff in orbit. So you may have seen these images of Starbase with like all these rockets. And I was always like, why do we need so many of these suckers? Well, it's because we have to launch them in rapid succession and then transfer liquid methane and liquid oxygen to the depot, meaning one of these that's in orbit. And then you have to have 8 to 16 of these guys go and put the fuel into the depot. And then a rocket with people on it comes and gets the fuel from the depot, and then they can launch into the moon, and then they can detach the little Orion thing and actually go to the moon. Yeah, so super complicated. And at least in Texas, this is going bananas. This is a huge industry, a lot of support from the Texas government. And SpaceX is about to go public supposedly next year, and they are going to demonstrate, they hope, transfer of the fuel next year sometime. So basically, currently, this is kind of all speculative. And there are also delays in basically getting people up there. And honestly, my reading of it is all these countries are depending basically on SpaceX. And these guys are trying to do their own thing. And basically, whoever wins is going to get multiple trillions of dollars in control of space. So what do you think? Should we be focusing on a lunar base?